And so I find myself back at the cockpit of my Hymer B544. Maybe not the catchiest of names, but here I am again. And I'm all alone, as you can see. Last week I had a cameraman, and how lovely that was to have a man just swirl around me and my universe that is van life. It was so lovely having him around. And today I have to record everything back on my own again, which is difficult because I can't just get up and do stuff and show you things. I can just sit down and be stationary. The reason that this curtain is closed at the moment is because there's a truck, an ugly little truck parked next to me, and this background might be a bit more nice to you. Now, talking about the cameraman, there's a story to be told there, and it's a weird one because, as you know, or might not know, but I always assume that people follow me or have been following me for years on my van life adventure. And I keep on, hammering on that I am a solo traveler and I love doing stuff on my own. And then things happen, and then you meet people. And then sometimes you meet somebody who turns out to be a bit more special than other people. And all of a sudden your world is kind of turned upside down because, oh, well, there you go. As you can tell, I hope you hear it in the background, there's a church as well. Not only an ugly truck, there's also a church. But anyway, apart from that, I'm parked up nicely. So back to the special person. I'm smiling because obviously he puts a smile on my face, but also it puts the whole traveling on my own all year round kind of in question, because what if you meet somebody? Then do you go back to your sedentary life and do you start doing what I call boring stuff again? So that kind of, put things in a perspective again, I have to admit. And again, like I said, it's lovely having a cameraman around. But on the other hand, people have jobs and lives and sedentary lives, and I can't just expect anybody to just up and leave their fixed life. So for the time being, still a solo traveler, still on the road and still discovering. Now, my last video, which was an introductory video to this Oldtimer, raised a couple of questions that I didn't address in that video. So we have to talk a couple of numbers, I'm guessing, because a lot of people ask me, well, how much did you pay? And it's one of those things, I'm brutally honest about it, but when I am brutally honest about it, other people will always then go like, well, you paid too much. Or, well, I know this guy, he paid only a third of what you bought it for. So I'm a bit reluctant saying the price because I'm expecting that that's the kind of response I'm going to get, that people are going to say like, oh, God, how stupid of you. But to me, at that time, I thought it was a fair price. I know nothing about it. I just know what my budget was. And it just fit within the budget. Let's put it that way. So I'm going to put it up there, but I'm going to say it as well. 16,000 euros I paid for this 35-year-old Oldtimer. I know. And like I said, there were people that went like straight away like, oh, a friend of mine just bought a similar one for 2,000 euros. You know, it just needed a bit lick of paint and it was an order. I didn't pay 2,500 or whatever. I paid 16,000. I thought it was in good condition. I respect the vendors. I trusted them a bit, kind of thing. They'd done whatever they did it with love. So, you know, I'm the fourth owner in total in 35 years, so I thought it was a fair price. In hindsight, always, you never know. But that's what I paid for. Like I said, it is a budget question. Again, if you've been following me for a couple of years, you know that I gave up teaching and I started this adventure just on my savings account and also based on an income from YouTube or social media that I didn't have at that moment, but that I was expecting to make. Now that's a big lie, this whole social media that you're making tons of money. I'm sure other people are, it's just I'm not. So I basically broke the bank on buying this Oldtimer. So whenever something happens, which it did, by the way, but whenever something happens, it's going to be difficult to pay for those things. But I'll guide you along the way and I will let you know when these things happen. And trust me, they happened. A second question that people raised as well was, well, what happened to your old van? What happened to Dean? Because the old van had a name, remember? It was Dean, and it was so normal. It was so really, I was going to swear there, but it was so normal that people just talked about Dean as if it were a person. And I thought that was kind of ridiculous in the beginning, but in the end I was also sort of saying me and Dean and Jack Van Dean and all that. It was all like getting normalized. So what happened to Dean? Well, two things happened to Dean. He, let's call him a he then, if he's a Dean, he fell through his MOT in Germany, which meant that I had to pay a lot of money to get him through another MOT for 2 years. When I'm talking about a lot of money, I'm talking 3,000 euros. So there was stuff going on with Dean. He was only 12 years old, but there was stuff going on with him that needed to be fixed. I find it very difficult to get rid of Dean or to part my ways with Dean, so he's still around. I still have him. I have him kind of as a backup car because it's just a car. He's so small that I can basically fit in every parking spot. So if I go to the supermarket or if I quickly have to dash for my family or help somebody out, Dean is perfect. So for the time being, especially since I invested 3,000 euros in its repairs, Dean is still around. He's just not a full-time camper van anymore, but he's around. So that's the topic of Dean. And the third question, another numbers question, is, talking about Dean, I wouldn't know how much to sell Dean for. What does a third-hand self-converted camper van with a history, what does it go for on the second-hand market? I have no idea. I couldn't put a price on it. I mean, I could put an emotional price tag on it, but then nobody would pay that. And then if you really just look at the vehicle itself, it would be ridiculously low, I'm guessing, and then I'd rather keep him. Talking about numbers again. But the third question, also a number question, is how much is on the clock? It's 35 years old. How many kilometers has it done? And to be honest, I bought him, her, I haven't still no idea what he is, at exactly 300,000 kilometers. Now the engine, the actual motor, was exchanged after 200,000. So it's kind of, I've got like a 35-year-old with 300,000 on the kilometer, but it's only like 100 with this engine. So it still runs smoothly, that's all I can say. Having said that, it runs smoothly. You know what? I mean, enough talking in the cockpit. I'm going to take you now to my living room area, because after all, I have a living room. I can stand up. Let's do that. I'm going to take you with me. There you go. Whee! You're flying with me. And I will, there you go, kitchen area. Boom, boom, boom. And if, boom. Sorry, what's it doing? Gimbal, shut up. So, okay, we are so, okay. Okay, let me put you down here. There you go. So, where were we? In my monologue. The reason this video is a bit later than I was planning, and life always gets in the way, of course, but this time the Oldtimer got in the way. And like I said, the vendors were a really lovely couple. They really put some love in this van, and with eye for detail, and it's been, you know, converted really, really nicely. Also upgrades on the heating and on the Truma boiler. So they've done really, really nice things to it. And when I bought it, we did a test drive and everything went perfectly fine. They did mention that the fifth gear, there was a slight problem with it jumping out once in a while, especially if you made brisk movements. So I was forewarned on that. I've got this Oldtimer now for 2 months, and the other day, a couple of weeks ago now, I noticed some oil stains on the floor. Not on the floor of the van, but, you know, on the ground underneath the vehicle. So I went to a Fiat garage, because remember, it's built on a Fiat Ducato basis. I went to a Fiat garage and they had a look, and it was not the engine oil, but the transmission oil. There were like more than just droplets. So I was losing transmission oil. So I took the Oldtimer to the garage. They kept it for like a day, and yeah, sorted out the problem. So there was a little leak, they could fix it, and then the van was also veering to the left and to the right every time you changed gears. So they sorted that out with stabilizer. So I was kind of happy about that. So everything went smoothly, and I could go on my travels. Now we're talking September here, so I'm in North Europe, as you know. It's still lovely weather up here, so I'm not planning on quite driving down to Gran Canaria, because it's still nice down here. So I just did like local trips through Germany, Holland, a bit of France, a bit of Luxembourg, you know. And then only last week, just before I wanted to send you a video, my fifth gear completely broke. It just jumped out and it would not stick in or stay in. And that's like a bigger problem. Now, nowadays, I'm not a mechanic, but nowadays we ask ChatGPT everything, don't we? Which is so bizarre, because I really do have the impression it knows everything. So I asked him, because ChatGPT in my case is a man, I asked him to, you know, can I continuously drive in fourth gear without damaging the engine? And it's like, yeah, this is an old car, fourth gear, as long as you keep around the 80, 90 kilometers an hour, you're perfectly fine. So that's what I did, and I drove back to my home base where there's the Fiat garage. And I told them about the problem, the fifth gear, and they know straight away what it is. The only problem is finding the parts, because they're old and then they're not really made anymore. So finding the parts, and then once they found the parts, installing the parts. Now apparently, not a mechanic, but the fifth gear is not inside the gearbox, it's next to the gearbox, so it should be easier to exchange it, but still, first we need to find the parts, and we haven't found them yet. So I'm kind of stationary here, although they kept on telling me you can drive and forth. You can still travel, you can do your little weekends away or little trips, but don't do a big Gran Canaria trip. So I'm kind of staying around the vicinity, not really doing a lot. Then on top of things, friends of mine noticed that I have already been driven more than 5,000 kilometers since I bought this Oldtimer, and it's time for an oil change. I've never done an oil change. Two left hands, remember. I do everything, remember, with sticky tape and plastic. So oil change is coming up. So I'm now researching which oil to buy and how to, you know, catch the oil when I open the valve and do all that, which I'm sure I'll show you in the next video. But that's due as well, because I kind of refuse to pay anybody for that, because I think, and this is nothing to do with ChatGPT or YouTube or anything, I think I can do an oil change. I must be able to do an oil change. So I will do that, and I'll film it for you. Trust me. Trust me. Is there anything else that I need to do? Yes, I actually wanted to show you a couple of things that I missed out last time. After I bought the van and I wanted to personalize it, I was stupid enough to be lured in by the Temu world, you know, the Chinese cheap stuff. Because when I was in Valencia or in Spain, they have these cheap China shops with all this cheap Chinese gear. €1, €2, it's all made in plastic kind of thing. So I ordered a couple of things on Temu, and I have thrown away a lot of things from Temu, because it's pretty bad quality. And like I said, it is mostly plastic. It's very cheap. But having said that, the curtains that you see here, the green ones, are actually also Temu. And I don't mind them. Don't mind them until, you know with online shopping, the minute you order something, they will send you emails saying like, oh, you order that, so you might like this. So Temu came up with some bizarre, but I love it, but some bizarre recommendation for me, targeted for me. Now look at my face, and then I'll go and get it for you. So they suggested different curtains. And these curtains are, I'm gonna hang them up and then we'll see together if it looks nice. But these curtains are, can you see that? They're little bears in a tree. Now, and this mama and papa bear at the bottom as well. Now, if you know anything about the gay world, I'm a bear, so I need bear curtains, let's be honest. So I'm gonna try those. Other stuff that I have bought, let me get that as well. I forgot to measure, so I don't think it's gonna work. They're too big. But it is these cutouts in wood. And I like to add wooden flair to the inside van, because it gives it a warmer feel, because now at the moment, to be honest, I find it all a bit white and I need a different color. So I'm gonna try and see if that, okay, well, oops. So I've got 3 of those, so the 3 might not be a bad idea, really. Actually, they do fit without me measuring, so that's not a bad thing. So I think that might work. So there you go. And that's what's keeping me busy for a couple of days or weeks until the 5th gear is fixed. And as long as I'm doing short trips, works for me. Another thing I just noticed, and I'm going to turn out around the camera for that as well. Yeah, I must admit, having a cameraman is so much easier and so much more enjoyable for you to watch, I guess. But bear with me. This is me being a solo traveler. So I've hidden something here, and it's not like a partition. So I've hidden it behind here, and let's have a look. It's not a partition wall, but it is. Let's put the curtain down as well. It's my new solar panel, because let's be honest, the Oldtimer doesn't have a lot of electricity. Well, barely any electricity. I have a power station. From my Dean days, I still have an EcoFlow, a small power station. And from my last collaboration with All Powers in China, I also have a bigger power station. But both power stations cannot be charged on air alone. So I need solar power. And this is a big 200-watt solar panel, which has to be installed on top of the room. So that's another DIY project for me, and ideally I would like to do that with somebody. Now, well, last year winter, I was in Valencia, and there was a German guy called Chris who helped me install my solar panel on Dean. Now he's back in Germany. I'm close to Germany, so I'm hoping that Chris will still be available to repeat what we did last time, but this time with the bigger 200-watt solar panel. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's another project. Lots of projects. And I still haven't done the traveling thing yet, but I really want to travel. And then the last thing that I want to show you in this video, because otherwise it's getting a bit too long and all that, and that is, turn around, is I need to fix this roof light. Remember, there is actually a little plissé shade and also a mosquito net, and I kept on dropping off, and I think today is the day that I'm gonna fix that, and at least I feel that I've done something today. So watch me do that, and then I'll wrap up the video in a minute. Okay, well, Velcro, not sure if it's gonna stick, but at least it's there, and it does seem to work. success. Well, I hope you liked my second tour of my Oldtimer. And like I said, there's a lot of DIY coming my way, and if I have to endure it, you'll have to endure it as well. So see you next week with some of my DIY tasks.
Can you write me something? Something like you love me. One more time, I need to hear it. Just one more time. Say that it's over. Say that the sadness is killing you now that you're feeling it in your so raw feelings. Everybody